Something is going on with time on this beach. Let's talk about old M. Night Shyamalan's newest film, starring Gael, García, Bernal, Vicky, Krieps, and Rufus, Sewell. In this one, we are taken along on a family vacation to a beautiful resort destination where a family is given the opportunity to go stay on a secluded beach where they begin to age rapidly, reducing their lives into a single day. I've really been looking forward to this movie for quite a while. I'm a pretty big fan of M. Night Shyamalan. I've really liked a lot of his films. I tend to go against the grain a little bit in terms of how my ratings and my feelings of his movies align with the rest of the movie community. For whatever reason, I just really appreciate the messages that he's attempting to communicate to the audience in his films. He's generally trying something a little bit different, somewhat artistic, with his cinematography or storytelling that isn't commonly done in many other films. So at the very least, I appreciate his effort that he puts into his films. And in any interview I've ever heard with the guy, I recognize that he has a real passion for his craft. So again, all those things kind of just elevate him to another level. In this one, I was a really big fan of the cinematography. There were some really cool panning scenes that were done multiple times. One you get in the first few minutes of the film, another one you get later, where you're taken along with the characters through a scene in a little bit of a back and forth motion as the characters are walking through rooms or walking around on the beach. And I really liked that. That stood out to me. I also really liked the production design. This was filmed somewhere in the Dominican Republic, and it's absolutely beautiful scenery. Pardon the interruption, but if you're enjoying this video, click like. Don't forget to subscribe. Back to it, with some really breathtaking landscape shots that I think a lot of people will appreciate. I also appreciate the messages that Shyamalan was communicating to the audience. There were some very obvious ones that you probably know going into this movie, like appreciate your time here on Earth. It's short, it's going to go fast. But there were some really cool ways to capture things that we recognize about life in kind of a cool way. One example is there was a scene when these families first get out on the beach and there are children playing freeze tag. And I recognize this was Shyamalan portraying how our childhoods feel like a snapshot in our minds and they went by that quickly. I thought that was a really cool way to communicate that message. There's some other kind of subtle things that happen in this movie that I was able to relate to real life. This isn't really a spoiler, so I'll go ahead and share it. There's multiple times where the families are on this beach and a member of the group will venture off for whatever reason and they'll be gone for some number of minutes and then they'll come back and they will have aged pretty significantly from the moment that they left. Whereas I noticed in the scenes that if they stayed together, you didn't notice the aging happening as quickly. And I thought that was just like a really cool representation of what actually happens in real life when you distance yourself from a family member or a friend that goes off into the world for some number of years and then you finally reconnect later. It's almost like, wow, I just saw you and now you look significantly older. And there's a few more subtle things like that that are communicated throughout the film that I did appreciate and recognized. Kind of the core message of the film is an appreciation of life and those around you. There's also a line at one point in the film where one of the characters, even though they're going through this terrifying moment in their life, talks about how much they appreciate that present moment, which again, I think is another message to the audience to enjoy what you've got while you've got it and specifically in the moment. One thing I didn't really see coming in this movie was the level of humor that was in it. I was laughing out loud on many occasions, primarily because of Rufus Sewell's character. There was just some awesome writing and great acting on his part. Lastly, the thing I appreciated about this movie was the big reveal at the end, which I won't get into in this video, but I will say if you've watched any Black Mirror episode ever, you will likely have the same feeling I had, which was that the reveal happens, you understand what's going on, why things are happening, and there was just like this instant, oh, this is a Black Mirror episode. That said, I don't think there's a person on the planet who is going to see this ending coming. I was taking notes during this movie and I'm like, oh, I caught this at the beginning, and they're bringing that up again, like midway through the movie. I know what's gonna happen. I had absolutely no idea where this was going. So I did appreciate the ending. I thought it was very creative and very unique. All that said, there are some things that really bothered me about this movie. Some of the acting was really, really bad. Like, real bad. I think it was because there was some forced dialogue, because there are aspects of the story that I'm sure they recognize the audience wouldn't pick up on. So there would be characters saying, like, something is going on with time on this beach. And it was said almost as cheesy as I just said that, but it was a character being really serious. And that line just made me laugh out loud. It was so hilariously bad. And it's funny, they chose this one character named Jaren, who just continues to be like this guy who every so often he's just like, hey, I think this might be the scientific reason this stuff is happening to us. And you're just like, well, who is this guy and why is he saying these things? But again, it's pretty clear that Shyamalan wanted to communicate this stuff to the audience, but it was really hard to do by showing you, so he had to tell you. So this was probably the only way to do it. Another thing I wasn't a fan of was the pace. I thought it was really good for about the first 50 minutes of the movie. Around the hour mark, I found myself checking my watch multiple times to see how far along we were into the movie. Were we going to be coming to a turning point soon? Were we near the end? And we kind of just hung out for about 30 minutes without too much progression in the story. In this 30-minute window, there are some super disturbing, gross things that happen with some of the characters. One of them in particular, I don't even know why it was in this movie. I think it may have been like, hey, let's just film this really weird scene over here. And it was disgusting. I could feel the look of disgust on my face. Maybe some people will appreciate that. But for me, it was just like, why? Why? Ugh. Blech. I'm going to be giving this movie 3 stars, and I would encourage you to watch it. I'm not necessarily saying this is a must-see in the theaters, but I think at some point you should catch this movie, because I do think it's one that should be watched at least once, especially if you enjoy any of Shyamalan's other works. Thank you guys again for hanging out with me. Hope you appreciated this video. Be sure to give a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Click that subscribe button to join the community, and we'll catch you in the next one. See ya.